was a mistake, as was stated. It was something we found out about along with all of you, and it will not happen again.
The president has directed...
New Yorkers lost somebody on 9/11. I had a friend who was lost. It was crass insensitivity, and frankly, as I would say as a former prosecutor, I'd call this felony stupidity.
Fly me to the moon, let me
We are talking about the incompetent imposter, Barack Hussein Obama, and his minions of fools, the Lilliputians running the government now, into the ground. Flying Air Force One over Ground Zero, and he didn't know about it? Does that make sense to you? Do you actually believe that that is the true story? We were also talking about Arlen Specter's Chappaquiddick and how Arlen Specter helped a murderer skip bail back in 1979. You have to read about Ira Einhorn, known as the Unicorn. You have to understand that Arlen Specter has long been a whore, and that this is no shock to anyone who understands that he represents the worst in the political arena, certainly not the best. And we're talking about a new name for the flu. It is no longer permitted to be called the swine flu because that affects pork farmers. And so we're therefore going to rename it the Napolitano flu in honor of the Homeland Security Secretary who is making certain that the virus has a good home here in America. We'll go to the callers now. Phone number is 1-800-449-8255. New York City, WOR. Leslie, you're calling about Obama's mistake about the flyover in New York?
Yes, I wanted to make a comment. I believe if it indeed was for a photo shoot, why was it circling a couple times on Staten Island before it proceeded into Manhattan?
I don't know. I'm telling you there are rumors circulating that a rogue pilot in the Air Force took the plane up as a signal, an SOS, that the presidency has been hijacked. How could you explain that a president would do this knowingly? What sense does this make?
I don't think so. If you would have seen the angle of the plane, I was outside at the time. I was walking my dog. It looked like it was going to crash. And I worked in the World Financial Center from 1988 till 2003, so I was there for both bombings. And my initial reaction was to start running. I thought it was going to crash here.
Oh, so why did they do... There's something wrong with the whole story. I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe a word of it. In other words, if you wanted a shot of Air Force One and an iconic American image, why could they not have flown the plane, for example, over the Grand Canyon instead of over Lower Manhattan? Something's wrong with the picture. I don't believe a word of the government story any more than I believe Napolitano is defending us against the flu.
And why was it not escorted? And, I mean, that fighter planes, they were right on its behind. Why was it not being escorted in if it indeed was for a photo shoot?
I'm telling you, I don't believe a word of this. Something is wrong with the story. I don't believe one word coming out of this imposter. Do you?
No, I really don't.
Good. I'm glad you have faith in the government. Henderson, wherever Henderson is. Where's Henderson? I don't even know where Henderson is. Line 7, welcome to the program.
Pardon?
You're in Henderson. You're in Henderson, Nevada?
Yeah, right outside of Las Vegas.
Okay, no, I know where Henderson, Nevada is. They left off the Nevada part. So what are you calling about?
Okay, you are so smart. You taught me how to think. I can tie them all in together, I think. Okay, you really taught me how to kind of bring things together in my little brain. Do you remember when Biden said, and he wasn't supposed to say this, right after this president gets elected, there's going to be something happening? Well, right before everybody went off to spring break, everybody was saying, don't go, we don't recommend it, because of the gang wars and the kidnappings. Those have gone on for years.
Wait, oh, you mean they told Obama not to go to Mexico, correct?
No, they were telling the spring breakers, don't go to Mexico.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm following you. Go ahead, next.
I think they knew that virus was down there. I think they knew about it, and they didn't want to say anything. There's something going on. This brings me, because now it's not the kidnappings that are the problem, it's that sickness. Now, the plane buzz, this is where this comes in. That comes in because I think the government knows there's stuff going on, and they don't want to tell us. And I don't care if it was an accident or if it was on purpose that plane was up there. You're right. They knew about it.
What do you mean there's an accident? Who took the plane up? How could anyone take Air Force One up in the air without the president knowing it? It's absolutely impossible to believe that story.
Something going on.
So let's start with the facts. The president didn't know Air Force One was in flight? Impossible. So therefore he knew it was in flight. So he's lying when he says it was a mistake and it won't happen again. He knew it was in flight. So who flew it up there and why?
I think that they're expecting an attack, and I think that either it was on purpose or it was on recon or something. You're right. Something's going on. And they're just BSing the people saying, oh, yeah, it's a photo shoot.
BSing the people? How much worse does it get than a Homeland Security Secretary, Napolitano, saying that it's too late to close the borders when we all know that makes no sense whatsoever? In other words, if there are additional cases in Mexico, the first thing you do is stop further cases from coming across the border. You don't say it's too late to close the border. That's when you first slam the door shut. It doesn't matter whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 days later. You stop the flow of people coming across the border, and you stop the flow of people going in and out of Mexico. That's what you do if you want to contain an epidemic. How else do you explain Carnival Cruise Lines bypassing Mexican ports? They understand that people will get sick there. Apparently, the Napolitano flu does not discriminate based upon politics. Thank you. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I really don't know. I mean, I have no idea why I'm doing this. I think we live in a time right now, it's the end of America, that an imposter like this could get this far and get away with a stunt like this, meaning lying that he knew it was up there for a photo shoot, and it won't happen again. I love the way he says, it's a mistake. You know, it's all he gives you the Kenyan BS, the big voice, and it's a mistake, and get out in front of it. What? You mean you didn't know, Mr. President, that somebody took your plane up in the air? That'd be like you saying, I didn't know my car was driving on Broadway. Someone took my car. So it is who took his car. Do you understand what I just said to you? Let's say you have a limousine and you have a driver. I'm giving a lowest possible level. You know where your car is at all time. You don't lend it to someone, do you? How often do you lend your limousine and driver to somebody? And if you do, you know where it's going. Air Force One is the most secure plane in the world. How did it get in the air? Who authorized it? And why did they authorize it? And what were they doing up there? It's a lie. It's a lie from the beginning to the end. And if the president says it was a mistake, he's lying. And if it was a mistake, then we're in bigger trouble than I fear. If he really didn't know who was flying his plane, then we're in deeper trouble than I fear. What, did the king of Saudi Arabia come in and want a little flyover for fun? Did one of his handlers want a little flyover New York City just for fun? Did one of the people who put him in office say, you know what? Hey, listen, Buster, we're going to fly. We want to fly over 9/11, over Ground Zero. We want to see what we did, okay? We'll take Air Force One. But, look, we'll be back. It's a short ride. We just want a joyride. We want to see the damage we did. But. Of course, that's not possible. You know, it's just a fantasy. What truth is what you get from NBC. What truth is what you get from MSLGBT. That's truth. Truth is what you get from the man who urinates on himself on MSNBC every night and has to wear adult diapers, according to everyone who works for him. There's rumors going around the MSNBC studios that they have to wear galoshes around the man with large glasses because of the amount of liquid that's on the floor after he gets through and off the air attacking people. But I really don't care. I mean, MSLGBT will be out of business within a year. There's not enough money in Microsoft to keep those losers on the air. But the issue is the flyby. Who did this and why? Norfolk, Virginia. Conley, welcome to the program.
How are you doing, Dr. Savage? I don't mean to push your buttons this evening, but...
You can push them all you want. It doesn't mean I'm going to respond, but go ahead.
I got to say that this one here really wasn't Obama's fault. Now, him being commander-in-chief, he has to accept responsibility of it. However, the aircraft is not Air Force One. It's only designated Air Force One when he's on board. Other than
that, you mean if I fly it, it's Air Force 10?
No, if anybody else other than the president is on there, I believe the call sign is Executive 1.
I see. So he can lend it out for a joyride to a kid in the neighborhood anytime he wants.
Well, you have to look at it like at that point. There's one aircraft that's on standby, which there's two.
Let me ask you something. If he did not know it was launched, who launched it and why? No, I asked the question. In other words, I'm going to take your side. Obama's innocent. He didn't know it happened. Who authorized flying Air Force One over Ground Zero? Who would have authorized that?
Well, for that answer, you would have to talk to the commanders over there at...
I am. We're trying to get an answer from the commander-in-chief. He's the great leader, isn't he? He's the great leader, the all-knowing Swami. Swami Obama knows all. And yet he doesn't know who took his plane for a joyride?
Well, as commander...
Come on, take a walk. Something's wrong. Something doesn't make sense here. That's all. Now, I know we'd rather talk about that than the fact that the whore, Arlen Specter, helped the murderer skip bail. But please, for God's sakes, don't overlook the fact that Arlen Specter's been a whore from day one.